All right, we're back now with video 3 in the Sustainable Product Platforms video, rule number 4 of the Biosphere Rule. So, give you a sense now how this would work at the materials level. If you remember in our previous video, we talked about Patagonia and their partnership with the Japanese company Teijin to actually set up a closed loop materials level, deep level value cycle for the fabrics they use for making these high performance, basically long underwear. Now, these are very high performance and it's a beautiful, beautiful product. And the way then the value cycle has been set up here at Patagonia when they initially launched these was that you would return your used, hopefully clean, underwear back to Patagonia. They had set up in the stores a number of sort of reception vehicles, and we see this in a variety of different places. You'll see this, obviously for aluminum cans and recycling, but you also see it in grocery stores to bring back your plastic bags. So more or less, this is what Patagonia did. You could bring back your old underwear and drop them in, and they could get recycled. Or the other possibility was to mail them back. Okay. And this then gives you a sense of how the world changes once you build a sustainable product platform, once you build a value cycle and you have materials that become valuable for you. Your world morphs away. The garbage can in Patagonia's world morphs into the mailbox or some other existing system to get that material back, right? So this is great. Patagonia then has a nice value cycle built around this materials, fundamental materials that they use to produce this. Now, if Patagonia then wants to generate some business value, they'll generate some scale, again, the thing they would have to do is then to begin to produce and sell multiple copies of these long underwear, right? And by doing so, then they would spread the fixed costs of creating the platform to produce these over a larger number and begin to generate greater profitability. Okay, but that's constraining, right? We saw this before. That's the scale economies. Ideally, what Patagonia would want to do is leverage that materials platform for economies of scope. And in fact, that's exactly what they did. From that fundamental base, then they began designing, as part of their Common Threads initiative, a whole variety of different types of clothing line products. Gloves, jackets, shorts, pants, hats, all of these things built off the same fundamental product line. They treated their materials value cycle as a fundamental platform, and then built a variety, a complete portfolio of products using the same fundamental system, which then increases economies of scale, increases availability and supply of these materials, and begins to reinforce both the scope and the scale economies that can be built out of this system. Right? Patagonia is not alone in doing this. If you remember, we talked about Recycline. Recycline is the manufacturers of these toothbrushes. And again, if they wanted to get scale economies, they would have to produce and sell lots and lots and lots and lots of toothbrushes. But if they use that plastic fundamental system they have, the Gimme 5 system I think that we talked about before, if they use that then as a platform to begin to think about multiple products, then they can gain scope economies, which is exactly what the company has done. The company has now spread from that fundamental materials platform to produce a variety of different products, from kitchen items and kitchen and cookingware, disposable or recyclable paper, plastic plates and cups, and then also personal care items like razors and shavers. All of these are an extension of that fundamental product platform. Right? So that's a great example of materials. Another example of this, a way these platforms could work, is Clorox. Clorox, famous for Clorox bleach, but they had the capability, they had the research and development expertise and laboratories that they could develop what they felt to be was sort of the premier or the leader perhaps in sort of natural cleaners, right? Cleaners based on natural products, not using synthetic chemicals, not using petroleum derived chemicals. And so they created this, one of their early products. And again, they treated that formulation, that expertise around formulating these cleaners as a fundamental platform. And from that initial Greenworks cleaners, they then produced a broader portfolio of different cleaning items, all built off that same fundamental platform. And that then allowed them to expand the production volumes. Not only, and you can imagine the benefit of this. Now they are producing and sourcing larger volumes of these natural ingredients, which allows them to buy in volume, lower their costs. They're producing at higher scales, and they're offering then a variety of different applications of that same fundamental platform, and allowing them to spread and grow. And that Greenworks platform has continued to grow. There are now increasingly a greater variety, all built off that same fundamental materials platform. In this situation, not used as material for building physical objects, but actually as a natural cleaner. And then surfing biological cycles, because these are natural chemicals. Once they go back into the environment, they're broke down by nature's value cycle and reincorporated into nature's existing biological cycles. All right? So there's a number of different ways to begin to see about this and begin to think about your materials value cycle as a platform that can be leveraged in a variety of different ways. Now, one of the pushbacks I'll get about this, especially from designers and materials people, is that, hey, once again, you're constraining innovation. And the examples that I've seen and the architects and other people I've spoken with really don't buy this deal. It turns out no slacker in business innovation and creating value. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he says. And when he talks about innovating under constraints, actually the innovating under constraints is a powerful driver of innovation. I think frugality drives innovation, just like other constraints do. One of the ways to get out of a tight box is to invent your way out, okay? And so that perspective actually shows up. When you begin thinking in terms of, hey, I want to build this item, and what kind of crazy cool new materials can I use? Or instead of that, you begin to think, hey, I need to build this item. I need to build it with my existing product, my existing sustainable product platform. How am I going to design a product so that I can do that? You begin to generate brand new, innovative ideas, surprising ideas. And Herman Miller is an interesting example of this. When they were designing their new chair, and what they used to do is design the spine that holds the back of the chair up. They used to build it with metal. They had a metal bar basically on the inside, and then plastic around it to make it look nice, right? And turns out, for the reasons we've discussed in these videos, that's a pretty unsustainable thing. You have multiple materials fused together. It makes it very different to recycle. And so the constraint for the designers was, hey, we need a spine that actually isn't designed that way. It has to be designed from a single monomaterial so that we can ensure the recyclability of our chair. And the engineers and the designers pushed back. They chafed at that idea. It's like, oh, come on, you're asking us to do something, that we don't even know if it's possible. They fought about it, but then they actually went and, they were sort of told, hey, you guys are smart, you can figure this out. They went back in, and sure enough, see that beautiful Y spine there? It's made of a monomaterial. And not only that, not only did it work, but it was something they could patent. It was a patentable new innovation, an innovation that wouldn't have occurred except these design constraints around the viability of the recyclability of this chair. Okay, so that's the challenge for many companies and many designers. It requires you to rethink how you approach design. Not what is the best material and sort of configuration for this, but how can I build this given my platform that I'm working on? How can I design a viable product that works, that meets customer needs, that's cost effective using that platform? And that constraint actually then can often drive some really creative innovation. All right, so we'll talk more about this in our next video about, you can see here, Herman Miller has designed a chair that is largely made up of recyclable materials, right? So it's in some ways it's a value cycle enabled, but they're not counting on their own company to recover and value cycle that. They're using standardized recyclable materials to drive it. And we're going to talk about then the different types of configurations of your platform. Are you capturing, recycling those materials yourself? Are you doing it with a partner? Or are you expecting larger, established, more open systems to recycle those components for you? All of these put forth governance questions about sustainable product platforms that we'll talk about in the next video. See you then.